The stars trembled before the might of the Draconian Empire. Their massive warships moved through space like dark shadows, bringing fear wherever they went. These reptilian warriors had conquered half the galaxy already. No one could stop them. No one dared to try anymore. The Draconians were tall, scaly beings with 4 arms and rows of sharp teeth. Their leader, Supreme Commander Zexitharian, stood on the bridge of his flagship, the World Ender. He looked at the burning planet below through cold yellow eyes. "Another world falls to our glory," he said to his officers. "How many ships did we lose?" "None, Supreme Commander," replied his second-in-command. "They surrendered after we destroyed their orbital defenses." Zexitharian made a sound of disappointment. "They didn't even fight? Boring. Take their resources. Kill half the population. Make the rest work in the mines." This was how it had been for 300 years. The Draconians moved from system to system, taking whatever they wanted. Their ships were too strong. Their weapons were too powerful. Their shields could not be broken. Far away, in a different part of the galaxy, Commander Lisa Bennett of the Galactic Alliance stared at the latest reports on her screen. Her office on the space station Last Hope was small but neat. Maps of the galaxy covered one wall with red areas showing Draconian control growing larger every month. "Computer, show me the refugee numbers again," she said, rubbing her tired eyes. "Refugee count from Centauri system, 3.2 million. Total galactic refugees, 47 billion. The computer replied in its calm voice. Lisa sighed and pushed back her short brown hair. Another system lost. Another few billion people made homeless if they were lucky. If not, they were now slaves or dead. The door to her office slid open. Admiral Kroll, a tall blue-skinned alien with 4 eyes, walked in. His species, the Volari, had been fighting the Draconians longer than most. "Commander Bennett, the council is meeting." "They want you there," he said, his voice deep and rumbling. Lisa nodded and followed him through the curved hallways of the station. They passed members of 20 different alien species working together. The Galactic Alliance was the last hope against the Draconians, but it was failing. The council chamber was a large room with a round table. Leaders from the remaining free world sat around it, their faces grim. Some were humanoid, others very different, from gas-filled floating creatures to rock-like beings that moved slowly. Council Leader Thara, an elegant woman with silver skin and no hair, stood as Lisa entered. "Commander Bennett, please share the latest defense plans." Lisa touched her tablet and a hologram appeared above the table. It showed star systems and ship movements. "We've moved our remaining battle fleets to protect these core worlds," she explained, pointing to green dots in the hologram. "The Draconian advance has slowed here and here, but they're gathering a large force in this sector." "How many ships?" asked a reptilian counselor. "At least 300 capital ships, sir. Maybe more." The room fell silent. The Alliance had less than 200 ships left. "Our scientists have improved our shield technology," Lisa continued, trying to sound hopeful. "The new shields can withstand Draconian weapons for almost 3 minutes instead of 1. No one looked impressed. 3 minutes was still not enough. "What about their shield technology? Any progress breaking through?" asked Council Leader Thara. Dr. Narration, the lead Alliance scientist, shook his head. His thin face looked tired. "Their quantum shield matrix reconfigures itself too quickly. We can't find a pattern to exploit. It's like nothing we've ever seen." The meeting continued for hours, but everyone knew the truth. They were losing the war. Soon, there would be nowhere left to hide. Meanwhile, in a solar system far from both, the Alliance and the Draconians on a small blue planet called Earth, people were going about their day unaware of the Galactic War. Earth had developed space travel only recently, and had not yet been discovered by either side. At the United Space Command headquarters in Houston, Captain Frank Miller walked through the underground facility. He was a tall man with short gray hair and a serious face. After 20 years in the Navy, he had been chosen to lead humanity's first deep space mission. He entered the viewing room overlooking the massive hangar. There it was, the USS Pathfinder, Earth's first faster-than-light spaceship. It wasn't very big compared to the ships of other species, but humans didn't know that. To them, it was an amazing achievement. "She's beautiful, isn't she?" said a voice behind him. Frank turned to see Dr. Alan Price, the scientist who had invented the Nelson drive that would power the ship. "That she is," Frank replied. "Will she be ready for the test flight next week?" Dr. Price nodded, his eyes bright with excitement. "Everything is green. The Nelson drive is installed and tested. It works perfectly in simulations." "Simulations are nice, but space is different," Frank said. "How far did you say we could go?" "If my calculations are correct, up to 50 light years in one jump," Dr. Price said proudly. "We can explore dozens of star systems." Little did they know that 50 light years would take them right to the edge of the war zone, where a damaged Alliance scout ship would soon be fleeing from Draconian forces. In his quarters that night, Frank looked at the photos of his crew. Lieutenant Heather Wallace, his first officer, was a brilliant young woman with combat experience. Engineer Sam Phillips could fix anything. Dr. Emily Grant was their science officer, eager to discover new worlds. None of them knew that their test flight would change the fate of the galaxy. None of them knew that humans had something special, something that the Draconians had never faced before. The next day, Lisa Bennett stood at the window of her office looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Draconian fleets were moving, destroying everything in their path. The Alliance was running out of time and options. "There has to be a way," she whispered to herself. "There has to be something we haven't tried." She didn't know that help was coming from an unexpected direction. She didn't know that humans, a species no one had heard of, would soon arrive and change everything. As Zexitharian planned his next conquest and Lisa desperately searched for a way to save the Alliance, the crew of the Pathfinder prepared for their historic journey. 3 different worlds about to collide in a way that would shock the galaxy. The Draconians had been the terror of the galaxy for centuries, but everything was about to change. The USS Pathfinder hummed with energy as its engines powered up. Inside the ship, Captain Frank Miller sat in the command chair on the bridge. His heart beat fast, but his face remained calm. This was the moment humanity had worked toward for decades. "All systems check complete, Captain," said Lieutenant Heather Wallace from her station. Her fingers moved quickly over the control panel. "Nelson Drive is ready for activation." Frank nodded and pressed the communication button on his chair. "Engine room status?" "All green down here, Captain," replied Engineer Sam Phillips. "The drive is purring like a kitten." Frank took a deep breath and looked at the main screen showing Earth growing smaller as they moved away. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to make history. Activate the Nelson Drive." Dr. Alan Price, seated at a special console, entered the final commands. "Coordinates set for the Alpha Centauri system. Nelson Drive activating in 3, 2, 1. The stars on the screen stretched into lines of light. A slight vibration ran through the ship. Then, suddenly, the Pathfinder shot forward at impossible speed. In the war zone 50 light-years away, an Alliance scout ship called Swiftwing raced through space. Laser blasts from a Draconian patrol ship followed close behind. "Shields failing," cried the pilot, a green-skinned alien named Zareth. "We can't take another hit." His commander, a 4-armed blue alien named Keltor, sent emergency signals to any Alliance ships in range. "This is Swiftwing requesting immediate assistance. We have critical intelligence about Draconian fleet movements." No one answered. There were no Alliance ships close enough to help. "One more hit and we're finished," said Zareth, his voice shaking. "The jump drive needs 2 more minutes to recharge." "We don't have 2 minutes," Keltor replied grimly. At that moment, space itself seemed to tear open near them. A small ship, unlike any they had seen before, appeared from nowhere. On the Pathfinder, alarms blared loudly. "Captain, we've jumped." "Too far," shouted Lieutenant Wallace. "We're nowhere near Alpha Centauri." Frank gripped his chair as the ship shook. "Status report. The Nelson Drive overshot our target by approximately 50 light-years," Dr. Price said, checking his instruments with a shocked expression. "This shouldn't be possible." "Captain, "There are 2 ships nearby," called out the sensor officer. "And one is firing weapons at the other." Frank's military training kicked in immediately. "Battle stations, shields up, get me visual." The main screen showed a sleek blue ship fleeing from a much larger black vessel with sharp, menacing edges. The black ship fired again and the blue ship's engines sparked with damage. "Sir, we're receiving a distress signal from the smaller ship," said the communications officer. "Put it through," Frank ordered. A desperate alien voice filled the bridge. "Requesting immediate assistance. We have critical intelligence about Draconian fleet movements." The bridge crew fell silent, staring at each other. Aliens. Real aliens. Frank stood up. "Those beings need help. Target the attacking ship's weapons. Systems only. Load torpedo tubes 1 and 2. "Sir," Lieutenant Wallace said quietly, "we don't know anything about these species or their conflict. We know one ship is asking for help and the other is trying to destroy it," Frank replied firmly. "That's enough for now. Fire torpedoes." 2. Bright streaks shot from the Pathfinder toward the Draconian ship. The alien vessel, not expecting any resistance, had no time to react. The torpedoes struck its weapon mounts directly. On the Draconian patrol ship, the commander stared in shock at the damage reports. "What kind of vessel is that? Where did it come from?" he demanded. "Unknown design, Commander," replied his weapons officer. "Their weapons are primitive, but they somehow passed right through our shields." "Impossible," the commander shouted. "Nothing can penetrate Draconian shields." Another torpedo hit their ship, causing more damage. "Retreat," the commander ordered. "We must inform the Supreme Commander about this new threat." The Draconian ship turned and sped away, vanishing into faster-than-light travel. On the swift wing, Keltor and Zareth could hardly believe what they had seen. The feared Draconians running away. "Commander, the unknown vessel is hailing us," Zareth said. When the communication connected, Keltor saw strange aliens with no scales, no extra limbs, just smooth skin and hair on top of their heads. They looked vulnerable. "This is Captain Frank Miller of the Earth vessel Pathfinder," said the alien in the center seat. "Do you require assistance?" After the swift wing docked with the Pathfinder, medics treated the injured aliens while Frank, Heather, and Dr. Price met with Commander Keltor in the conference room. "We thank you for saving our lives," Keltor said, bowing slightly. "But I must ask, how did your weapons penetrate Draconian shields? No one has done that in centuries." Frank looked confused. "We just fired standard photon torpedoes. There was nothing special about them." Dr. Price's eyes widened as he checked data on his tablet. "That's it. Captain, our torpedoes use a completely different technology than their shields are designed to stop. Their shields are set up to block energy weapons, not our type of physical projectiles." Keltor leaned forward, his 4 eyes blinking rapidly. "Your species has never encountered the Draconians before?" "We've never encountered any alien species before today," Heather explained. "This is humanity's first faster-than-light journey." Keltor sat back, stunned. "Your first? Then you don't know about the war? About what the Draconians have done to half the galaxy?" For the next hour, Keltor explained everything. The centuries of Draconian conquests, the billions enslaved or killed, the Galactic Alliance fighting a losing battle. "And your torpedoes," Keltor said, "just passed through their shields like they weren't even there. Do you understand what this means?" Frank nodded slowly, the weight of this discovery settling on his shoulders. "It means we might have a weapon that can fight back against these Draconians." "Not just a weapon," Keltor said, leaning forward. "Hope. You bring hope." Later, as repairs were made to the swift wing, Frank stood alone in his quarters, looking at a picture of Earth on his wall. His simple test mission had just turned into something much bigger. A knock came at his door. It was Heather. "The Alliance commander wants to take us to their headquarters," she said, "to meet their leaders." Frank nodded. "The crew?" "They've all voted. They want to help." Frank looked once more at the picture of Earth. peaceful and unaware of the danger that lurked in the stars. "Send a message back home," he said. "Tell them we've made first contact and that Earth needs to prepare. The galaxy is at war and we've just joined it." The news spread like wildfire through the Galactic Alliance. Commander Lisa Bennett could hardly believe the report on her screen. A ship from an unknown species had destroyed a Draconian patrol vessel. Not just damaged it, destroyed it completely. "This can't be right," she said, reading the report again. "No one has managed to destroy a Draconian ship in over 50 years. Admiral Kroll stood beside her desk, his 4 eyes blinking slowly. "The report is confirmed. The Swiftwing's data recordings show everything. These humans, they have weapons that can pass through Draconian shields." Lisa looked up at him. "How is that possible?" "Their technology developed in isolation. It followed a completely different path than ours or the Draconians. Their weapons are simple but use principles our shields were never designed to stop." Hope flickered in Lisa's chest for the first time in years. "Where are they now?" "On their way here," Admiral Kroll said. "The Swiftwing is escorting them." Far, across the galaxy, in the massive black fortress ship of the Draconian Empire, Supreme Commander Zexatherian smashed his fist against the wall. The messenger who had brought the news cowered on the floor. "Impossible," Zexatherian roared. "Nothing can penetrate our shields. Nothing." His second-in-command, General Vex, stepped forward carefully. "The patrol ship's recordings confirm it, Supreme Commander. Their weapons passed through our shields as if they weren't there." Zexatherian grabbed the data crystal from the messenger and inserted it into the viewing screen. He watched as a small, strangely shaped vessel fired primitive projectiles at the Draconian ship. The projectiles shouldn't have been any threat, yet they passed through the shields and exploded against the hull. "What are these creatures?" Zexatherian demanded. "They call themselves humans," General Vex replied. "They come from a planet called Earth in a system we haven't explored yet. Our intelligence suggests they are new to space travel." Zexatherian's yellow eyes narrowed. "New to space travel, yet they can destroy our ships? Find this Earth immediately." On the Pathfinder, Captain Frank Miller and his crew stared in amazement as they approached the Alliance space station, Last Hope. The huge station hung in space like a glittering wheel, with ships of all shapes and sizes coming and going. "It's beautiful," Heather Wallace whispered. Commander Keltor nodded. "It's one of our last major bases. The Draconians haven't found it. Yet." The Pathfinder docked at the station, and Frank led a small team to meet with the Alliance leadership. As they walked through the station, aliens of all kinds stopped to stare at them. Some pointed, others whispered. Word had spread about the humans who had defeated a Draconian ship. In the council chamber, the Alliance leaders waited. Frank felt strange being the center of attention for so many different alien species. Some looked almost human, others were completely different. Floating gas creatures, rock-like beings, and things Frank had no words to describe. Council Leader Thara stepped forward. "Captain Miller, on behalf of the Galactic Alliance, I welcome you and your species to the galactic community." Frank bowed slightly. "Thank you. We're still trying to process everything that's happened. 24 hours ago, we didn't even know alien life existed. And yet you chose to help the Swiftwing when you saw it was in danger," said Lisa Bennett, stepping forward. "That says much about your people." Frank shrugged. Anyone would have done the same. The alien leaders exchanged looks. "No," said Admiral Kroll. "Many would not. Many would have fled or stayed hidden." The meeting continued for hours as the humans learned more about the war and the Draconians. Engineer Sam Phillips and Dr. Emily Grant joined the conversation, asking questions about technology and biology. "I still don't understand why our torpedoes worked against their shields," Sam said. Dr. Narration, the Alliance scientist, explained, "Draconian shields are designed to stop energy weapons, lasers, plasma, ion beams. That's what all advanced species use. Your projectile weapons use physical matter and chemical explosives. It's technology we abandoned centuries ago. Sometimes the old ways work best," Sam replied with a smile. Later, in a private meeting room, Lisa showed Frank and his officers the true extent of the draconian threat. Maps displayed how much of the galaxy they controlled. "They will find Earth. Eventually," Lisa said gently. "It's only a matter of time." Frank's face hardened. "Then we need to stop them before that happens." "How?" Lisa asked. "Your one ship, impressive as it is, cannot defeat the entire draconian empire." "No," Frank agreed. "But Earth has more ships, and we can build more. Plus, we have something else the draconians aren't prepared for." "What's that?" Admiral Kroll asked. Frank smiled slightly. "Human creativity. We've spent our entire history fighting wars against ourselves. It's not something I'm proud of, but it means we've gotten very good at finding new ways to defeat enemies who seem stronger than us." Back on Earth, the news of alien contact and the Galactic War had caused global shock. But after the initial panic, humanity did what it always did. It adapted. In the White House, President Diane Ross met with the Joint Chiefs of Staff and the newly formed Space Defense Council. "Every factory that can be converted to shipbuilding is being converted," General Paul Martinez reported. "The Nelson Drive designs have been shared with all major powers. We'll have 20 ships ready in 3 months." "Not enough," said Admiral John Carter. "The Draconians have thousands." "Quality over quantity," President Ross said firmly. "Captain Miller reports that our weapons technology gives us an advantage. We need to build on that." In a laboratory at MIT, Professor Susan Kelly led a team working on new weapon designs. "If simple torpedoes can penetrate their shields, imagine what these could do," she said, pointing to designs on her screen. All across Earth, humans were preparing. Military tactics were adapted for space combat. Engineers worked around the clock, improving engines and weapons. People who had been enemies now worked together against this new threat. At the Alliance station, Frank watched a video message from Earth. President Ross's face looked determined as she spoke. "Captain Miller, you and your crew have made humanity proud. You've shown the galaxy what humans can do. We're coming to help. Hold on until we get there." Frank turned to Lisa Bennett, who had been watching with him. "That's why the Draconians should be worried," he said. "Humans don't give up. And when we work together, we can accomplish amazing things." Lisa nodded slowly. "I'm beginning to understand why you might be our best hope." She looked out the window at the stars. "The Draconians have ruled through fear for centuries. They've never faced a species that wasn't afraid of them." "Everyone feels fear," Frank said. "Humans included. The difference is what you do despite being afraid." In that moment, as human and alien looked out at the stars together, something new was born in the galaxy: hope. 3 months passed quickly. The first fleet of Earth ships arrived at the Alliance station, Last Hope. 20 sleek vessels, built with Earth's best technology and improved with Alliance knowledge, gathered in formation. Each ship carried weapons that could penetrate draconian shields. On the command deck of the largest human ship, the USS Defender, Admiral John Carter watched as his fleet moved into position. He was an older man with gray hair and a serious face that rarely smiled. "All ships report ready, Admiral," said his communications officer. Admiral Carter nodded. "Good. Inform the Alliance we're ready for the briefing." In the main conference room of the station, human officers sat alongside alien commanders. The atmosphere was tense but hopeful. At the front of the room, Commander Lisa Bennett and Captain Frank Miller stood before a large holographic display, showing a star system. "This is the Procyon system," Lisa explained. 3 planets all inhabited. The Draconians conquered it 6 months ago and have turned it into a forward base for their next attack on Alliance worlds. Frank pointed to specific locations on the map. "Our intelligence shows they have 40 ships stationed there. Not their best ships. They're still gathering their main fleet elsewhere. This gives us a chance to strike first." Admiral Carter stood up. "Why this system? There must be easier targets." "2 reasons," Lisa replied. "First, the Procyon system has significant shipbuilding facilities that the Draconians are using. Second, it was home to 50 million people before the invasion. Most are now slaves working in factories and mines. The room fell silent as everyone understood the importance of the mission. This wasn't just about destroying enemy ships, it was about freeing innocent people. The plan is complex but effective, Frank continued. We won't fight the way they expect. Earth ships will use hit-and-run tactics here, here, and here. He pointed to different locations. Alliance ships will appear to retreat, drawing Draconian forces into this asteroid field where we'll have surprises waiting. The briefing continued for another hour, with officers asking questions and suggesting improvements. This wasn't how the Alliance usually fought wars. They were used to direct confrontations and clear battle lines. Human tactics seemed chaotic, almost random. Later, in his quarters, Admiral Carter reviewed the plan one more time. There was a knock at his door. Enter, he called. Commander Lisa Bennett walked in. Admiral, I wanted to check if you had any concerns about tomorrow. Carter gestured for her to sit. Many. This plan breaks every rule of space combat I learned at the Academy. Lisa smiled slightly. That's exactly why it might work. The Draconians expect us to follow the standard rules of engagement. They've been fighting the same way for centuries. And humans? Your species adapts, changes, creates new ways to fight when the old ways fail. It's what makes you different. Admiral Carter looked thoughtful. Different isn't always better. In this case, it is, Lisa said firmly. We've lost too many battles fighting conventionally. It's time to try the human way. The next morning, the combined fleet jumped to the Procyon system. The battle began immediately. From his command chair on the Draconian base ship, Commander Krax watched with growing anger as the battle unfolded in unexpected ways. His ship rocked from another hit. How are they doing this? He shouted. Their ships are smaller than ours. Their technology is inferior. His tactical officer looked confused. They're not following any known battle pattern, Commander. They seem to be moving randomly. We can't predict where they'll attack next. On the bridge of the USS Defender, Admiral Carter issued orders calmly, despite the chaos around him. Group 3, break off and hit their left flank. Group 2, prepare for attack run on my mark. The human ships darted through space, never staying in one place long enough to become easy targets. They attacked from unexpected angles, then disappeared behind moons or into asteroid fields. The Alliance ships, learning from their human allies, had abandoned their traditional formation fighting. They now moved unpredictably too, confusing the Draconian targeting systems. Commander Krax slammed his fist on his command console. Focus all fire on their largest ship, ignore the smaller ones. But as his gunners tried to target the USS Defender, smaller Earth ships swooped in, firing torpedoes at the Draconian engines and weapon systems. Explosions rocked Krax's ship. Shields failing on decks 5 through 12, reported an officer. Impossible, Krax roared. In the engine room of the Draconian command ship, something unexpected was happening. A small team of humans and Alliance soldiers had secretly boarded before the battle began. They wore special suits that hid them from Draconian sensors. Charges set, whispered Lieutenant Kyle Adams to his team. We have 5 minutes to reach the extraction point. The Human Alliance strike team moved quietly through the massive ship. Their mission: disable the Draconian communication system to prevent them from calling reinforcements. Back on the battlefield, Admiral Carter watched as the tide of battle turned in their favor. 10 Draconian ships had already been destroyed or disabled. The rest were in disarray, unused to enemies who fought so unpredictably. Sir, called his communications officer. Lieutenant Adams reports mission accomplished. The Draconian communication array is down. Carter nodded. Signal all ships. Begin Phase 2. Across the battlefield, Alliance ships suddenly changed tactics. Instead of continuing their seemingly chaotic movements, they formed a tight formation and drove straight toward the main Draconian base on the largest planet. The Draconians, expecting the Alliance to continue their hit-and-run attacks, were caught off guard by this direct assault. They scrambled to reposition their remaining ships. They're attempting to reach the planet's surface, reported Krax's tactical officer. Shall we pursue? Yes. Don't let them land troops, Krax ordered. But this was exactly what Admiral Carter had planned. As the Draconian ships moved to intercept the Alliance fleet, Earth vessels emerged from hiding behind the system's moons. They attacked the now exposed rear of the Draconian formation. "We've been tricked," Krax realized too late. "It's a trap." On the surface of the largest planet, slaves working in the mines heard the battle raging in space above them. A Procyon, elder named Jarl, looked up from his work, hope dawning on his weathered face. "The Alliance has returned," he whispered to those around him. "And they're winning." By the end of the day, the battle was over. 15 Draconian ships had been destroyed. The rest had fled or surrendered. The Procyon system was free again. In the main square of the capital city, Admiral Carter and Commander Lisa stood before thousands of cheering former slaves. Beside them, Captain Frank Miller smiled as he watched the faces of the freed people. "This is only the beginning," he said quietly. "One system out of hundreds. But it's a start." Lisa nodded. For the first time in centuries, the Draconians have truly lost a battle. Word will spread. "And the next battle?" Admiral Carter asked. Frank's eyes hardened. "We'll be even bigger. The Draconians won't underestimate us again. They'll send their best next time." "Let them come," Carter said firmly. "Humanity is just getting started." News of the victory at Procyon spread across the galaxy. For the first time in centuries, people dared to hope. On worlds conquered by the Draconians, whispers of rebellion grew louder. In Alliance territories, volunteers lined up to join the fight. On his command ship, World Ender, Supreme Commander Zex Therian paced furiously. His yellow eyes glowed with rage as his officers cowered before him. "How?" he growled. "How did they take Procyon?" General Vex stepped forward, trying to hide his fear. "The humans fight differently, Supreme Commander. They don't follow normal battle patterns. They're unpredictable," Zex Therian hissed. "Then we will crush them with overwhelming force. Gather the Death Fleet. All ships, all weapons. We will destroy these humans and their Alliance friends once and for all." The Death Fleet was the pride of the Draconian Empire. 300 massive warships, each one capable of destroying an entire planet. They had never all been gathered in one place before. There had never been a need. On the Alliance station, Last Hope, the mood was one of cautious celebration. Admiral Carter stood with Commander Lisa Bennett and Captain Frank Miller, watching human and alien crews working together on the station's main deck. "The intelligence reports are confirmed," Lisa said quietly. "The Draconians are gathering their Death Fleet, all 300 ships. They're coming for us." Admiral Carter's face remained calm, but his eyes showed concern. "How long do we have?" 2 weeks, maybe less." Frank looked at the star map on the wall. "They're taking us seriously now. That's good and bad. Good because it means we've hurt them. Bad because they'll throw everything they have at us." "Can we win against 300 of their best ships?" Lisa asked. Admiral Carter sighed. "Not in a traditional battle, no. But we're not going to fight a traditional battle." He turned to another human who had just entered the room. Dr. Olivia Martinez was a brilliant scientist who had been studying Draconian technology since the first pieces were captured. "Tell them what you found, Doctor," Carter said. Dr. Martinez placed a small device on the table. "This is a piece of Draconian shield technology. We've been analyzing it day and night, and we found something interesting." She touched the device and it projected a complex pattern of energy waves. Their shields operate on quantum harmonics. They adjust constantly to block any energy signature they detect. That's why they've been unbeatable for so long. Lisa nodded. "This isn't new information, Doctor. But this is," Martinez said, adjusting the display. "There's a pattern to the adjustments, and patterns can be predicted. If we hit their shields with a precisely calibrated electromagnetic pulse at exactly the right frequency and timing, we can create a cascade failure in their entire shield system." Frank leaned forward. "You mean we could take down all their shields? At once?" "Exactly." Martinez smiled. "But we need to get close enough to their command ship to deploy the pulse device, and we'll only get one chance." For the next 2 weeks, humans and Alliance members worked together preparing for the biggest battle in galactic history. New weapons were built, ships were modified. Every available vessel was called in from across Alliance space. On Earth, factories worked around the clock producing more ships. 10 more had just been completed and were racing to join the fleet before the battle began. Admiral Carter stood on the bridge of the USS Defender, now the flagship of the combined Human Alliance fleet. 150 ships had gathered. Not enough to match the Draconians in strength, but perhaps enough if their plan worked. Death Fleet detected entering the system, Admiral, reported the sensor officer. Carter nodded. Battle positions, everyone. Remember the plan. The Draconian Death Fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. 300 black ships moving as one, like a giant fist ready to crush anything in its path. At their center was the World Ender, twice the size of any other vessel. Supreme Commander Zexitharian stood on his command deck, looking at the smaller enemy fleet with contempt. Pathetic. They think they can stand against the full might of the Draconian Empire? They've arranged their ships in a standard defensive formation, said General Vex. It seems they've abandoned their unusual tactics. Zexitharian smiled, showing his sharp teeth. They've learned their lesson too late. All ships, advance and destroy them. As the Death Fleet moved forward, the Alliance fleet held position. This confused the Draconians, who expected their enemies to scatter or retreat. Something's wrong, General Vex said suddenly. This is too easy. At that moment, Admiral Carter gave the signal. Now. The Alliance fleet suddenly broke formation, not retreating but attacking in small coordinated groups. Each group targeted specific Draconian ships, hitting them hard before moving to new targets. Stick to the plan, Carter commanded. Groups 1 through 5, clear a path to the command ship. Dr. Martinez, is your team ready? On a small, fast ship called the Interceptor, Dr. Martinez and a team of engineers prepared the pulse device. Ready, Admiral. Just get us close enough. The battle raged across space. Draconian ships, despite their power, struggled to hit the smaller, faster vessels that darted between them. Human tactics were being used by the entire Alliance fleet now, and the Draconians couldn't adapt quickly enough. On the World Ender, Zexitharian watched with growing fury as his neat formation fell into chaos. Target their largest ships, ignore the small ones. But the small ships were causing the most damage, their weapons finding weak points in the Draconian defenses. The Interceptor, protected by fighter escorts, raced toward the World Ender. Laser fire and explosions surrounded them as they closed. We're hit, called the pilot as the ship shook violently. Engines damaged. Dr. Martinez checked her device. We're still too far for optimal effect, but we have no choice. Activate the pulse now. The device hummed to life, sending invisible waves of energy toward the Draconian command ship. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, suddenly, the shields around the World Ender flickered and died. Shields down, shouted General Vex. How is this possible? Zexitharian stared in disbelief as his invincible ship became vulnerable. Restore shields immediately. We can't, Supreme Commander. The system is completely fried. Admiral Carter saw his chance. All ships with torpedoes. Target the command ship, fire. Dozens of ships turned their weapons on the now defenseless World Ender. Torpedoes and missiles streaked across space, hitting the massive vessel from all sides. Explosions rocked the Draconian flagship. Zexitharian stumbled as his command deck tilted beneath him. Warning alarms blared all around. Prepare my escape ship, he ordered. The battle is lost. As Zexitharian fled in his personal vessel, the leaderless Draconian fleet fell into even greater disarray. Some ships continued fighting, others retreated, and a few surrendered. The World Ender exploded in a brilliant flash of light, sending a message across the galaxy. The undefeatable had been defeated. In the days that followed, the galaxy changed forever. The Draconian Empire, without its leader and main fleet, began to crumble. Some Draconian commanders surrendered. Others went into hiding in distant parts of the galaxy. 1 month after the battle, representatives from 100 worlds gathered on the Alliance station. Humans stood proudly alongside their alien allies as a new galactic commonwealth was formed. Admiral Carter and Commander Lisa shook hands on the main platform. You did it, Lisa said. Humanity saved the galaxy. Carter shook his head. We all did it together. But this is just the beginning. There are still draconians out there and worlds that need to be freed. As the ceremony concluded, Frank Miller looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, Sexitharian had escaped. Somewhere the remaining draconians were regrouping. But now they feared humans. Now they told stories to their children about the strange beings from Earth who had done the impossible. The galaxy had a new protector and a new future. The draconians had been the terror of the galaxy for centuries, until humans showed up.